Hey everyone, I'm Kobus, and today we're going to go over how to master heat-based weapons. Heat weapons are a new type of gear introduced in Renegades, and you'll recognize them in weapons like Uncivil Discourse, the M17 Fast Talker, and most of the weapons introduced in the dungeon. These weapons are a bit special in how they work due to their lack of a magazine, choosing to generate heat instead, and also having a skill reload mechanic. In this video, we'll go over how to use the basic parts of the broader archetypes of heat weapons, how to manage heat, everything related to skill reloads, and I'll show off how they work while we talk. As with all my guide videos, there will be timestamps for you to skip around and come back to later. Let's get into how they generate heat. It's pretty straightforward based on the testing that Mossy Max did. The heat meter is out of 1000, with each shot generating heat. At 1000 heat, it forces you into the overheated state, which will make you vent until it's at a low enough heat for the skill reload at the bottom of the battery. You'll also notice that these weapons have a stat called cooling efficiency. This dictates how much of the heat is passively vented per second. Venting replaces reloading in these weapons and gives you the ability to cancel the reload midway through. This canceling is what allows you to do the skill reloads for the dynamic class of heat weapons, but we'll get to that part soon. On heat weapons, a weapon is considered to be reloaded as soon as it starts venting heat. Now I'm being very specific with this use of the word reload. It's not a refill like autoloading holster, reconstruction, grave robber, etc. This means that reload perks can be instantly activated by spamming the reload button to start and cancel the reload, then you can continue to fire the weapon. Take a weapon like Zealous Ideals from the dungeon. This is a balanced heat weapon that gets a reload perk like Heal Clip. It also takes a long time to build up heat, so if I were to wait until the gun gets fully overheated to start to reload, I'm wasting a lot of Heal Clip procs. Doing a small partial reload will allow Heal Clip to heal me. Then I can continue to take advantage of the onslaught rate of fire increase. This is only one of the many perks that benefit from the partial venting reloads. Other examples are Volt Shot, Kill Clip, and Desperado. This does have the downside of eating into the duration of certain perks if you go for the full vent instead of canceling. Skill reloads, or perfect reloads, are what separate these weapons from other archetypes and each other. On the heat bar, you'll notice two distinct sections, one at the bottom 10% of the battery, and the other at the top 10% of the battery. Which bar you care about will be based on which weapon you're using. As you fire, all heat weapons will make noises. They will let you know when they are overheating and when they reach the bottom part of the battery. The bottom part of the battery where it sounds off is when you can start firing after overheating the weapon. Here's a clip without any audio over it so you can listen for the sounds. Dynamic heat weapons will want to cancel their reload at the bottom of the battery. On screen will be footage of me firing the new heat-based sniper. If I use the skill reload by either hitting the reload button, firing, or sprinting when it's in the bottom highlighted section in the battery, I'll get a buff called Dynamic Heat Limiter. While this is active, heat generation is greatly reduced and you can fire significantly more shots than without this buff active. Here's a clip of Uncivil Discourse firing off 28 rounds without needing a vent. Balanced heat skill reloads are focused at the top part of the battery. If you reload during the top 10% of the heat meter, you'll get a much faster reload. I'd compare it to an outlaw reload. The clips being shown on screen will have skill reloads on them, but here's a weapon that doesn't say which archetype it belongs to. Heirloom. Heirloom is actually a balanced heat weapon, and here's a clip showing that it has the perfect vent. Overheating happens when the heat generated exceeds the 100% threshold, and it forces you to do a vent until you're at the bottom 10% of the heat meter. While overheating is annoying, there is one upside to the heat system I haven't talked much about yet: passive cooling. I mentioned earlier that the gun cools down over time, but it also happens while you aren't holding the gun. That means every heat weapon has a form of auto-loading holster. While it's not usually as good as the perk on its own for non-heat weapons, it's a big perk on the whole system. Time for one final skill that could be both broad and niche in its usage: timed shots. Some weapons are able to cool down really quickly, such as the sniper I'm going to have firing on screen. There may be a case where you want to slow down your firing to make sure you keep constant damage on an enemy, like if you needed to make sure an anti-barrier champion doesn't start regenerating its shield. You might not have enough heat to break it, but you can stop it from regenerating health. That's pretty much everything you need to know about the base heat weapons. I'd go over the perks fully, but we still don't have a lot of numbers on them, so I don't want to go over them in depth, but we can still talk about them a little bit. I'll have the heat-based perks on screen if you want to know the numbers behind them, but knowing when you want to use it will vary from person to person as to how they play. As a brief summary though, here's how I think they'll be with what we know. Thermal atomization is a chain reaction explosion with up to a 14% damage increase to the base weapon. Not a bad perk, but if a weapon has Mega Neura, that might be better for your explosive needs. Cooling Baubles is essentially a partial reload perk at its core. Really good on the M17 Fast Talker for Peacekeeper things, but your mileage will vary heavily based on the build and weapon you are using. Delicate tuning should only be used in PvP, but it does give really good buffs for that mode. If you want to read up more on perks or see when all the numbers are in this database, this is the Destiny Data Compendium. I'll have a link in the description to the spreadsheet, and I fully recommend it as a resource as you play the game. It's incredibly useful for learning exactly what everything does. Hopefully this guide taught you how to fully utilize heat weapons. If you want to find me and support what I do, drop a sub here and follow me on Twitch at Jacobus. I also have a spreadsheet called the Gun Rule Guide, where you can see my thoughts on most every weapon in the game. Currently it is updated through all weapons pre-Renegades, but it does have my Renegades wishlist of weapons I wanted to test prior to the expansion releasing. I hope to have that updated within the next few weeks. Hope you all have a good day, and maybe I'll see you on the next video too.